Okay. So good morning to everyone and welcome to another VEAP session. We've had a wonderful time so far, and I've had good reports even for those sessions that I have missed. And even for those of you who have missed some of the live sessions, of course, you always have access to the recorded, edited and recorded session. And I think that is an important public good that you can share with your colleagues that are not present in this cohort. And we'll be very happy if you can share these links far and wide so that persons outside of the cohort can still benefit from this rich transfer of knowledge and knowledge sharing too. And I'm very impressed indeed with the level of knowledge sharing and the whole learning by doing approach and team learning. So that's really great, and it's something we should all be proud of. When I share this with my superiors at Caribbean Expo, they were really impressed with that, and that's really the spirit with which we would and should be approaching the whole digital transformation agenda in the region, because we're behind on the learning curve in some areas. In some areas, we're on par or even ahead, but this knowledge sharing and partnering and teamwork is going to be critical as we try to move each other ahead, and let's, as we can say, lift the digital tide for everyone. So I'm really happy for those of you who are sticking it out. Very soon, as I said last week, you'll be separated into 2 tracks that are more appropriate now to your actual level of e-commerce adoption, so that the rest of the session can more adequately respond to your particular needs. So without much ado, I would just like to welcome Gilbert as he takes over for the rest of the morning. So Gilbert, thank you very much. It's over to you.
Thanks, Philip. Good morning, everyone. Thanks for being here again. I know half of you excited to get ready for the weekend. It's Easter weekend, long weekend. I wanted to do, I'm going to do a recap of last week's session because of how critical it is to the survivability of your business, long-term survivability of your business. But before I do, I wanted to know if there were any questions specifically to the sessions that we did last week. Any thoughts that you guys had after leaving the session and after digesting that material over the last week? If you do, floor is open for discussion. Anyone? No one. Okay, so let me jump right into it. Earlier this week, I had a conversation with a colleague of mine who operates a training, e-commerce training academy out of Canada. And one of the comments he was making is how critical this has become his focus. Like, he can drive you towards making money on e-commerce, right? There's a formula to that, as Leighton would have told you guys, and Leighton has a formula of his own for how you increase your revenue, how you attract market, how you do your customer acquisitions, all that stuff. We did pricing, which is critical. But the time that you have taken as small businesses, as medium businesses, as big businesses, right, to get to where you are, that investment has been critical. Time, money, energy, opportunities lost because you've chosen this path. You could have done something else, but this is the choice that you've made. Whether you are Wayne with his barbecue sauces, Shan with her services, with her consulting services, Telecare, who have invested in building out the platform, Roxanne with Shop Carib. It takes a lot of time, it takes a lot of energy, it takes a lot of resources to get to where you are. And to know that the key one of the keys to your success, one of the keys to your survivability, one of the keys to your growth development is how you manage your operations. In fact, I think it's a key thing. That's why for us at ETNIV, we have focused, I would say 90% of our energy building out operational tools. It's critical. This is where you either break or you succeed. We're going to look at something as simple as customer service. Throughout the region, we're known for terrible customer service. All right, you walk into a typical brick and mortar store in the Caribbean and you swear as if you were begging them a favor. You're begging them, please allow you to spend your money. And if you are nice to them, they're not going to allow you to spend that money. Right? We have got to have a serious culture shift when it comes to that as we jump into e-commerce. And now our market and our consumers and our customers are across the globe with experiences that are very different from what people who are just primarily, their customers that are primarily in the Caribbean. They'll be so happy to move on because you're going to have competition. You're no longer operating in a space where you might be the only store or the only supplier of a particular product or service in your geographical location. Now your geographical location have expanded across the globe. So you have got to adjust that customer service, not just for your global customers, but for your local customers. Because again, at the end of the day, this is one of the points that we made last week, that this global customer base, you want them to become not just consumers of your product or service, you want them to become evangelists to what you do or what you sell. So on your website or wherever you have an e-commerce presence or social media presence, you must engage with your customers. Open up communications, open up channels for communication, open up dialogues about your product. Allow for them to speak to you about your products and services. Allow for them to give you feedback on those products and services. Allow them to vent. Allow them to praise. Now, within the cohort here, has anyone started their customer engagement plans? How do you currently engage with those customers? Whether I know many of you do not have a web presence of your own, but how are you currently communicating with those customers or those potential customers? Is it that you just get on Facebook and Instagram, WhatsApp, and selling your product that way? It's just sales. I'm just about the sales. I'm not about really communicating with my consumers, my customers, or eventually want to become ambassadors for my brand. Anyone, how are you currently communicating with those consumers? Okay, so it seems like I'm gonna have to call him. So Roxanne, I know you represent a number of small businesses. At your current state, how are you communicating with your potential consumers, consumers to the multiple brands, and how are you communicating with your vendors, your sellers? So that how are you allowing them to communicate, or how are you advising them to communicate with their potential consumers?
Good morning, everyone. Thanks for the question, Gilbert. We do quite a few things, and we've actually been trying to do quite a few things to work out which one works best. So that's some analysis we've been doing. But we do a weekly newsletter to our customers. So people come to the site. they're encouraged to sign up and join our mailing list for a chance at discount. So we capture information that way. Then with that information, we do a regular newsletter. We mix it up a little bit. Sometimes it's tied to a particular campaign. Sometimes it's tied to a particular season, a particular holiday, you know. And so we push information out to them, and those things are usually also tied to some sort of a act now, get a discount. Follow up, we're very, very interested in that customer service element. You talk about how it is a challenge in our part of the world, and yes, it is. So we overcompensate a bit. So we spend a lot of time and effort on packaging, on branding that goes into the package, on thank you cards even that go into the packages, and we just incorporated an element, a QR code that allows the vendor to give their feedback on a particular product. So that kind of feeds into, well, that's where we're at, and that's how we're engaging, and that's how we're trying to keep that. I like what you said, making that customer become your evangelist. And so that's where we've been trying to take them through that path. They find out about us, they join the mailing list, and then they go through and then become this, and we get them down the funnel, and they've bought a thing, we get them to review, but getting people to review is the hardest thing ever. Unless you've done something wrong or bad or poor, they don't say anything. So it's like, no news is good news.
Yeah, all brilliant, small but brilliant mechanisms that you've put in place to open up those channels for communications. What I find is, if via your e-commerce site, getting feedback, as you said, is relatively challenging. Positive feedback is relatively challenging. They're much more engaging in social media spaces, right? The QR code is brilliant. The thank you cards are brilliant. Turn those QR codes possibly into discount on your next purchases. Right? Then you could start interpreting that not just as next purchases, but also as feedback. So the discount may not be much. The discount may be during those holiday periods that you're talking about. You could say, okay, I'm offering a 5% discount on your next purchase. Or there's other options where, based on your survey, based on your feedback, you get a 5% discount on your next purchase. Simple things like that. One of the things that we do is, if you're thinking about building your own website, those of you who are here, is making your WhatsApp numbers available for communications, implementing chatbots, the automated chatbots that you could implement into your website. Something Leighton can speak to when he gets on, because you don't always have the time all day to respond to what is taking place on your site. So if you have consumers that are asking you something, that their response is that you could code into your chatbot. There is also messaging, where you can get a message, which typically comes to your email, and then you respond to, not immediately, but remember last week I shared with you a tentative time schedule of how you manage your e-commerce business. So within that time slot for responding to emails, you respond to those messages that may have come in via the website as well. These are relatively simple things that you can do. Again, I'm saying all these things because I know what it takes for you guys to get to where you are, to stay in it, and to grow that business. So having a communication with your customers, your consumers, is really, really important. So you have chatbot, you have messaging, you have your WhatsApp number. If you're at the stage where you can hire call centers to handle your customer engagement. Right? I talk about being engaging them on social media. So even before they get to your website and begin to purchase your products, how do you engage with them there? How do you present your products and your services within those spaces so that it's not just me selling, it's me educating you on what this product can do for you, of the experience that you're going to have using our products or services, right? How is this going to enhance your experience? The other thing we spoke about is inventory management and how critical that is to your business operation. Again, it's just knowing that this is what I have, but also knowing this is what I can supply my customer with when they make a purchase. Because a disappointed customer after you've made a sale is not, and then you realize that I cannot fulfill the sale, it's not just disappointing to you that you would have lost a possible income, a possible revenue from that product, but the fact that the customer is also going to be disappointed after they've spent so much time, probably taking a look at your competitors and finally coming to your site and then going through everything, all the steps there and making a purchase, only to find out after that purchase, you do not have that product available. That is a form of communication with your consumer. That leads to disappointment. That's a setback to your business. The other thing that after I'm finished with this, I'm going to jump into order fulfillment, logistics and order fulfillment, and how critical that is to, again, to the business. It is the end product of e-commerce, actually getting that product into the hands of your consumers. Managing your website and getting it up to date on a daily basis, on a regular basis. This is what represents you. This is what represents you to the thousands, to the millions of consumers out there. If you have your own website, make sure it's up to date. This is the point Ronald was making last week with his content on his website. As when you go to Ronald's website and you see what's there, I mean, you want to buy, you want to jump in and you want to make those purchases. But you've got to make sure that that content represents what you really have, which ties into your inventory. Having the right resources on board to ensure that that gets done. So let's say you decide that I'm going to build my own website. I reach out to Leighton. Leighton is building me a website. Do I have the resources or do I have a contract in place with Leighton that updates this website? Do I have the content that he needs when I'm supposed to get it to him so that he can update this website? Because at the end of the day, I made this very clear that that is your responsibility. This is your business. This is your livelihood. This is what feeds you, feeds your family, feeds your dreams. You can't depend on that outside source to be as invested in it as you are. I mean, your investment over the years to get to where you are speaks for itself. Don't just say, all right, I built this, somebody has built me a website and I'm leaving full responsibility in their hands to get this done. Even when you look at people who have established websites, like for us, I mean, our website, we have a team and I meet regularly with the technical team to ensure that we are where we need to be. I can't just say, well, these guys have got it. No. I've had to have regular meetings with them once a week, multiple times a week to ensure that what is representing me is fully represented me. Any questions so far? All right, so I'm going to jump into logistics and fulfillment as part of that, part of the logistics process. First, I gotta find my slides. Okay, some of you who were here last year would remember these slides. I guess the BSO would remember this. So the first question, does your logistics plan include a return process? First
Actually,
question.
Gilbert, can you go full screen?
Yes, thanks, Philip.
Yeah, thank you.
Okay, does your logistic plan include a return process? First and foremost, I should have asked, do you have a logistics plan? Do you know when I get an order, this is the packaging that I'm going to use for these particular products? This is how I'm going to protect these products so that they're received in the manner in which I intended them to be received. They're protected. I know exactly which carrier is going to take this package based on the order, based on where it has to be delivered, based on what is being transported. Do you have a plan in place for that? And on top of that, do I have a return plan in place? Consumer no longer wants this product. It does not meet their needs. It has to be returned to me. Or maybe I don't want it to be returned. Maybe I'm just going to refund you and you keep that product. Or maybe it has to be returned and this is the cost of it being returned. And I've informed my consumers that there will be a cost for any returns. Let me see a show of hands who have a logistic plan in place. Good, as I expected, Roxanne. And for Jamie, I want you to think about, all right, so I don't necessarily have a product that I'm shipping or that has to be received, but I'm delivering a service. What if I have a disgruntled customer? What is my policy towards engaging with this customer based on what that discrepancy is, based on what their issue is with your service? Do you have a plan in place? Are there policies written to address this? If you're not there, there's a process that the next person follows. Anyone else that has a service industry, I want you to think about that aspect of it. Yes, Jamie, go ahead.
No, we do have policies in plan for, the continuity from the administrative side, but
Okay.
because our doctors use the platform, in a way we have a policy that we tell them we have certain like video conferences or video apps that they need to use to ensure that they have the proper I guess security, if that's if that's what you're asking, because
No, so all right, so I guess again this question is for the way that I'm going to communicate here with Jamie is for those of you in the service industry. You're not delivering a product per se. You're delivering a service.
Correct.
So let's say one of your doctors have an issue with the service that you have delivered to them. do you have a policy that says this is how I address certain issues?
Yes.
Okay, good.
We have service agreements with the doctors to be able to use the platform, and what, you know, what we mandate them in terms of security features that they need to maintain in terms
Okay.
of and then we also have our terms and conditions when our patients come online or fill out our forms, so that they are aware of, and you know, the data that we collect and why we collect it, which is all privacy, because you know, we're collecting health information on our patients. So we do tell them exactly what we are using the data for, where the data is housed, what we're doing. So in all aspects, we have some kind of agreement with either the patient or the doctor that's using the platform.
Okay, so let's do a real life scenario. I'm a patient. I'm going to go in as a patient, and I come and I said, I used your platform, and your platform did not serve my purpose. I asked for this particular, I'm trying to find this particular type of doctor. I'm trying to use this particular type of service, and your service is glitchy. It has been up and down. And I start complaining about a million and one things for whatever reason, right? Now, you as a business owner, how do you have a policy in place to address my complaints?
No, we do not. But what we do is, because we are still young, after every patient, we send them a survey or questionnaire for them to be able to fill out, for us to know how we can improve our platform. And
Excellent.
we try to do it on a one-to-one basis. So if we have a patient who had an issue right now, we try to tackle it. But we don't have a policy in place to say that this, you know, steps 1, 2, 3 is what we're going to do. We're just handling it right now from a one-to-one basis, depending if we have a complaint or a suggestion or something like that.
Excellent. My suggestion to you is, as rudimentary as that policy may be, as unrefined as it may be, start it so that it grows with you and you learn to tweak it, because you are going to have consumers, customers, patients, and doctors. A doctor is probably going to come to you one of these and complain about the platform not performing when he most needs it and how it interrupted his business. How do we address that? How do we address it so that he gets back to business and you continue yours with as little as much disruption as possible? Again, the conversation I'm having with Jamie specifically speaks to the service industry. So anyone else here who's in the service industry, Shan, right, as a consultant, when you have clients that are complaining about your particular service, how do I deal with that? Right? So I need you guys to take these things into consideration and start writing and planning what that process is like. Hello?
Yes, but this is Sean. Can you hear me?
Yeah, but you have an echo.
Oh, hold on. Let me try. Is that better now?
Yeah, much better.
Right. Okay. So while you were discussing with Jamie, so I was having a few thoughts. And I said that we share. So essentially what you're saying is, one, we need to have a documented plan to deal with challenges as they come up as it pertains to any issues with the services that we, specific to those of us in the service industry, with the
Correct.
services that we provide. So it could be in the form of, like, for Jamie's business model, for her, it might include troubleshooting. So,
Correct.
okay, it's a form.
But not just
So
troubleshooting. Remember, sometimes often you're troubleshooting with a very disgruntled customer. So why do I keep this customer calm and confident that my services are the one that they need to be with?
Right. So what the point what I was trying to say as well too is that, okay, so as she determines, all right, what's the first step? Okay, do I jump on a call? Do I walk the doctor or the patient or whoever, the facility, through X, Y, and Z process if it's something that could be Like if it's something that requires troubleshooting, we can walk them through that so that they could see where the issue was, so that we understand what they did versus what happened with the system. For somebody like me, it would mean so I get on the phone with them to, you know, hear what they would have expected, send a response as to, okay, this is what I'm hearing. Is this what you would have liked instead? And then try to remedy that. If it's something that could be remedied at no additional cost, I do it. If it's something that would require additional cost, I will indicate that. So, because for me, I have a lot of one-on-one interactions, not many on one. And so it would be dealing with that specific customer and client to ensure that, okay, this is what we discussed, but this is what you, after follow-up conversation, this is what you actually meant that you wanted. And so to document how I would deal with that, especially if I'm not around, for somebody to at least start the process of getting that done. So just ensuring that my thoughts are clear. Okay, then, no problem.
Yes. And for you, right, it's a matter of, you said, always having a conversation that clarify what was discussed, what is required, right? And once you have that documented and you send it back for your client for verification, and you know everything after that is a scope creep and requires change order fees, a change order process and a change order fee, if you so choose to charge a fee. And for Jamie, that's more like your service level agreement at times, right? This is what we have agreed to. But important in the service industry is, however you plan to resolve that issue, you have to ensure that it aligns with your business view at the end of the day. Often when you're operating in a space where when you seem to have a sort of a monopoly, arrogance tends to lead the day. And you're thinking, okay, this person has to come back to me. But that may be the case today, may not be the case tomorrow. And if I'm trying to grow my business, I'm trying to turn that customer, that client, again, into an evangelist. So if it's one doctor and I deal with him in a calm manner, regardless to how outrageous he may be, how disrespectful that person may be, try to calm them down, get them to a place where we resolve this and move on, often works out for you. This is somebody else who's going to go to another person and say, yeah, I was probably an asshole on that day, but these people that work with me and my business is still in full operations. Now, let me pull that back to e-commerce in a product manner. Anyone else here who has a plan besides Roxanne? Like, for example, I know within our system, if a package comes in, if an order comes in for a package between 10 and 20 pounds, if it's perishable items, and based on the destinations, we have a couple of logistics options that are programmed into our system. And based on that order, our system knows, well, it needs to go in this particular type of box. And this is the courier that it has to go with. So it's sort of automated. Now, for us, the system is automated. You could put that into a spreadsheet. You can say, like for somebody like Wayne, you could say, okay, I now have an order for a case of my barbecue sauce. And this barbecue sauce is going from Barbados to Grenada. I know I need to pack this in a box that protects my bottles so they don't break, because I'm probably going to have to send this based on the order and how much I'm charging for shipment. Is going by boat. It's going by schooner. It's going to take 2 to 3. It's going to take a week. I have to make sure I package it well. I have to make sure I label it well. I have to make sure that I have all the proper custom documents in place. I have to make sure, and I choose to brand my box so it's properly branded, so everybody knows what's going and what's coming on the next end. I alert my consumers that, hey, package it, it's now on its way. The courier is alerted that the package is coming, or they have to come and pick up a package from you that has to be delivered within a particular time frame. Does anyone else besides Roxanne have a plan?
Gilbert, can I just jump in here while we
Sure.
field questions? One of the things I must say, I think this is probably the most difficult parts of business overall, whether or not you are an e-commerce business or a brick and mortar business, is documentation of processes, especially for the service-based industries, and especially when it is that they have many different types of products that are sold and serviced in different ways. It can become quite a complicated process. But I want to ask all of you here today on this call to ask yourself one question, just one question. If I should be required to be away from my business for health reasons, for vacation, or for any other reason for 1 month, can the business survive? Can the business run? Can it survive? Is the business able to sell its products how it is supposed to be sold? Are we able to deliver the service as it is supposed to be delivered? Are you able to handle discrepancies and issues as they arise? What happens, especially in service industry, what happens when you sell a subscription-based product where a person subscribes to and they have opted not to continue using the service? Because I will tell you, a lot of us service-based companies, we lose a lot of revenue, not because we are losing customers, but because we're not able to enforce the disconnection or shutdown of services. So we've thought about what it takes to get the customer, what it takes to give the customer the product. But what happens when the customer decides that they have not paid, or they are no longer interested? Do they still have access to the product or service? Or are they disconnected, and is there a process around it? I ask this question because in my 10 to 12 years of being in business, I've come to appreciate that a business is really, defined by a set of instructions, operating instructions. And if those instructions are not in place, then there will always be the need for a human resource with the knowledge to give persons those instructions, meaning that you, the CEO, most time the person who make up all these rules and practices, will have to be in the business for the business to carry out itself. And at the end of the day, us as entrepreneurs, that's not what we aspire towards. What we aspire towards is to set up a business that is able to run itself and to oftentimes give us some freedom to live our lives how we want to live them, not to be a slave to the business. So I ask you guys again, if you were forced to take 1 month off from your business, could your business run itself? If not, then all of what Gilbert is talking about is what you need to be doing. You need to be documenting all the processes from start to finish, from acquiring the customer, servicing the customer, dealing with issues, and even dealing with when they decide to stop using the service. Similarly for products. Products are much easier than services, but the same concept remains the same. Can the business run without you? Business can't run without you. The person that you must do is document, regardless of what type of business you have. The benefit to an e-commerce based business is that because there are systems in place and the ways of working are so prescribed, you have no choice but to have some amount of process and procedure around how you execute. But it is going to be the biggest difference between you running a one-man show or a business that has to have you in it versus you being able to step away and watch the business work on its own. Back to you, Lloyd.
All right, cool. Second.
Lloyd has his hand up.
Yes. Okay. My idea of a digital business is that I don't want to deal with physical products. I intend to deal with digital products. For example, downloads, if I'm into ebooks, whereby I can have my books written and persons, when they want to access my books or my lectures or my videos, pay via PayPal or Pay on it. So you find with the digital platform or the digital means, you don't have to physically to worry about shipping. When you use the digital means, it simply goes to the email and there is no shipping cost available, no shipping costs involved. So that will cut up a lot of the work around physical products, because with physical products, you need to have inventory. And then when your inventory is out of stock, it'll be a little difficult to keep on supplying your customers. And you have to always be on point to order, to supply, and to ship with physical products.
Right.
But with digital products, you simply upload an ebook online, for instance, and persons, when they access your website, they access your website through PayPal and they pay and they get their things sent directly to their email. So that is truly a form of passive income because you don't physically have to be there. You might probably just go to bed, and when you wake up in the morning, you just got 2 sales, 2 persons downloaded your stuff, and money has been sent straight to your PayPal account. I think with that avenue, using the digital realm, it's easier for me because I don't have to physically be there to control the sales, and I don't have to keep inventory because the digital product is there for life. And when I do that, I think it's truly a way to sustain myself because my business is a digital business. That's what I use for my online realm, my online e-commerce stuff.
Okay. And that guys, I would say, in my opinion, running a business that sells digital downloads or digital access to the product is the easiest business model that can be unlocked online because there's very little to no administrative work around it. There's little to no support requirement around it. The customer buys it, they get it, and they move on with their lives thereafter. You know, it's a very simple and easy business model to activate. The biggest challenge that most persons have with selling digital products is securing future revenue. So if it is that you sell a product that allows the person to download the assets and have a copy offline, then when they're ranting and raving out there about how great this product is to their friends and family, the easiest thing that they can do is just share a copy of that product instead of sending them to buy it from you. So one of the key things there from a revenue protection perspective is to constantly looking at how it is that you can secure your digital product in a way that does not compromise the user's experience or access to the product, but secures the product from being shared, printed, downloaded, and as a shared with other persons who may be interested in buying that product. But he's right. Digital downloads, selling digital products is the easiest form of e-commerce that you can find yourself, based on my knowledge of all that's available out here today.
Hi.
Thank you. Thank you.
Okay, but based on what Mr. Eugene just said, I understand it's easy, but you could still have a dissatisfied customer based on if they downloaded the information and the information provided wasn't what they thought it would be, etc. You might still have a dissatisfied customer, or two, maybe the time it downloaded, the length of time it took, etc. So wouldn't that also have to be dealt with as a business owner? Wouldn't you still have to deal with that issue?
Yes, definitely. Once you are a dissatisfied customer, it doesn't matter what type of product you are selling, you will have to address that dissatisfaction, or rather, it is in your best interest to address that dissatisfaction so that that customer does not go out there and leave a bad review or make a lot of noise. I said, bad news travels faster and spreads wider than good news. So you don't want to have somebody out there shouting on the top of their voice about their dissatisfaction for all and sundry to see. So you still have to have a process in place because somebody can perceive a digital download to include X, Y, and Z information in it. And when they get it, they don't get that information, or maybe the format of the information is not what they expected. Just like, for instance, we've been on this program and you guys say, all right, guys, we're not too loving the PowerPoint version of the work. We would prefer the Word version. A simple thing, same content, same information, but the format of which the information comes across preferred in another way. Similarly, persons can have preferences and dissatisfactions for digital downloads, and there has to be a process in place behind how you deal with that. As Gilbert mentioned, having policies in place around returns. I will tell you that these return policies, terms and conditions, data policies, privacy and data policies are key policies in e-commerce for most payment gateway providers. They will tell you flat out that they will not enable the payment gateway without these two policies in place, terms and conditions, which generally governs the refund and return terms around the sales. If it is that you have a no refund policy and that is how you do business, that needs to be very clear, so that if the person comes back and says, hey, I don't like what I bought, I want to refund my money, then you can say, hey, based on policy that you agreed to when you purchased the product, we don't allow refunds. Or if it is that you allow maybe exchange, and not a refund, but you can allow exchange. So you don't like this copy of this, but maybe you can get another copy of something else, and you can communicate it and adjust it accordingly. Or if you support refunds, then you can give persons a money back guarantee, and money back guarantees increase a lot of chances for persons to purchase digital products. As a website development company, we gamble a lot on tools that we think will solve persons' problems, and we sometimes, when I'm putting together a solution to persons' problems, we don't build everything from scratch, right? We don't build everything from scratch. So sometimes we buy tools to plug some of the functional gaps that are needed, and a lot of our decisions around buying those tools are based on our perception and understanding of these tools. And I will tell you, I buy the tools that only give me a money back guarantee. If it does not work how I intended to, no questions asked, I can get my money back, because I'm taking a gamble on this tool. I may buy one tool today, it provides 80% of the functionality, but not at 20, and I just need 100%. I have to go somewhere to get it. You understand? So different types of policies will impact your sales effectiveness, but it is important in communicating that and also ensuring that your team members who are supporting this process are aware of what the policies are.
Hi, sorry. I just wanted to mention here, I really appreciate what you're discussing with regards to the policies. And I'm just thinking that, well, you said that all team members have to know what's going on, which is true. Also, persons that, let's say you have or will be hiring new persons, they also have to be on board. They need to know about these policies. So I'm just thinking of storage. Where would those policies be placed so that every single person on the team would be able to access those policies? I think that is very important.
Yeah, well, that's a good question. In terms of locating the policy, I mean, it can be on a shared drive that the team accesses, but generally it is always on the website. So, you know, when you're making a purchase from a website and you have that little checkbox right at the top, right before you click place order, there's always that little checkbox that you have to tick that says, I agree to these terms and conditions. And those terms and conditions are normally clickable, like you can click on it and it brings up a page. It is always right there, both for administrators, customers, anybody who is interacting with the site to see. But of course, you can store a copy of that offsite as well, right? I see a question in the chat that says, is it wrong not to have a refund policy? Yes, it is wrong not to have a refund policy. You must have a refund policy, even if the refund policy is to say, we don't do refunds. But people must know what to expect when buying goods from you. If you don't have that, then you're going to find yourself in problems with customers and in problems with your payment gateway provider, because you're going to find that they're going to be going to their banks very regularly saying, hey, I purchased something, is not what I wanted, or not what was sold to me, or not what was positioned to me, and I want back my monies, and these guys are being difficult about it. And if it is that your refund policy is clear, then the bank will have no choice but to honor the sale. But if it is that you don't have these things in place, then it creates a lot of problems. As I said, no payment gateway provider. I think maybe PayPal is the only one you may be able to get away with it from, because of how easy they make it to access their services. But no, I know First Atlantic, you will never get away with that. Or First Atlantic or any regional payment gateway provider, because they check for these things. It's like how they will check to ensure your site is secure. They would ask you, where's your refund policy? Where is your privacy policy? Because it also speaks to how you manage customers' data that's collected through these forms. I see a note to that you have to check the country's policy and refunds, as it also may be illegal not to have a refund policy. As I say, I don't know if countries, I've never heard of a country law or country policy around governance of for people to do business. I mean, I'm not saying it doesn't exist, but bottom line, I'll say, guys, a bad practice not to have a refund policy. Have it, even if it at least says no refund. Just like when you walk into a Chinaman store in Jamaica or an Indian man store, you may see the big old sign in the window: no refunds, no exchange, no trust, right? And trust meaning that no credit, right? So these things have to be very clear. And in a sense, as simple as that little card is in the window, that's the refund policy right there. It's the same thing on it.
All right, guys. So the thing is, even in spaces like Jamaica, like as Leighton just described, there are policies, there are government policies that dictate what the refund policies are. So as much as this guy would have had a sign in his window that says no refund, it is illegal. Most people would not go through the entire process of probably taking him to court, that type of stuff, because he has that sign up. But it is illegal. Just about every country that we have looked at their policies when it comes to refund, there is a refund policy governed by the Consumer Protection Board in those spaces, right? It is illegal for him to have that. It is illegal for you to put up a policy on your, there is a policy that is dictated by your state that you should follow. So in a lot of places, I think Jamaica is 14 days. Can't remember what it's 14 or 30 days. I think St. Vincent's 30 days. But we still try to implement a plan for 14 days return.
Okay, that's interesting. I'm learning something new on that one today.
Yeah. It is governed by the state. Those return policies are often governed by the Consumer Protection Boards in those places, but they're just not enforced. That is it. But if you have a customer, if you have a customer that is adamant about it, really it depends on the price of that, what they've paid for that product. Like when you think about it, and you go into a store that sells an item that is of minuscule value, whatever that is, and you think, okay, and now I got to go through the whole process of going to the consumer board and trying to get him to give me back my money, and you're like, it's not worth it. But it's terrible practice for you as a business to be known for that, for not honoring what the return policies are. So yes, it is important that you have a return policy. I'm not buying anything on a website that does not offer me the ability to return that product and make it very, very clear. So although I may have a return policy, I'm going to state in clear, bold letters, return. Like if you notice, Amazon does this, and it does this clearly. I do not have to read the return policy. So I feel very, very confident about what I buy there. It tells me, or you have until this particular date to return this product. Clearly states it. I do not have to read the return policy. That is stated. When we go back to Lloyd and his business of downloading, yes, that business model suits you. Hold on 1 second, Lloyd. That business model suits Lloyd, but there are a number of other people on their site who that business model doesn't fit. As Leighton was clearly pointing out, like the distribution of digital downloads, unless you are Apple, where it's these digital downloads are tied to your account, then you run the risk of loss of revenue by these digital downloads being shared, right? So that business model would work for Troy, but when we look here, the majority of the people within this space don't have that kind of business. They're not willing to sustain that type of risk, right? They make products. So your product, on your business, on any business planning processes, you should have a logistics plan, which includes a return process. I'm going to go through what you should, now that I've seen it, majority of you don't. And for those of you who do, for instance, Roxanne, I'm going to share at the end of the session, I'm going to share an outline of what that plan should look like, but I'm going to go through that plan now so that you can think about it. All right, Lloyd, go ahead.
Yes, sir. Thank you so much. I mean, I really appreciate the points that have been said and discussed, especially the return policy. And one of the ways it is a way to combat that is like, for instance, if you're going to download puzzles, so you're going to have a website and you have puzzles, digital puzzles, so persons could access your website and download puzzles via PayPal. You will have the puzzles at a very cheap price, like $3 per puzzle. So when persons want to download the puzzle, they pay a minimum about $5 via the PayPal or the credit card. And if they don't like the puzzles, the chances of them asking for a refund is considerably low, because only $5 they will ask for a refund for. So therefore, if the puzzle is not what they wanted, it will be highly unlikely for that person to request a refund. But by doing so, the price of your digital product is so low, it probably almost is impossible for somebody to request a refund. So maybe that's one of the ways to reduce on the likelihood of persons requesting refunds.
Lloyd, I can't even begin to tell you how brilliant that strategy is, because it also points towards your pricing strategy, right? Because when you look at it,
thank you.
And I said pricing is not just science, it's psychology as well. And the psychology behind your pricing comes in here. Not only are they not going to ask for a refund, but if I downloaded this puzzle for $3 and somebody asked me to share it, I'm like, come on, man, it's $3. Why would I share this? Just pay $3 or just pay $5 for the puzzle. Get your own. It makes sense. It really does. I like how you've incorporated science and psychology.
Yeah. Because I realize by having such a minimal value, persons will be more eager to purchase online. If it's only $3 as opposed to 40 or 50 US, persons are more eager to pay for something that's worth $5 US as opposed to 50, 60 US.
Yeah, agreed. All right, so let's take a look at what, for those of you who do not have a logistics plan, as I said, I'm going to share this after, but so here we go. You have to establish goals and objectives of your logistics plan. Before you can start planning your logistics and fulfillment strategy, you need to identify your goals and objectives, determine what you want to achieve with your logistics plan. For me, again, this logistics is not just me getting the product to you, it's me communicating value to you in the manner in which I get this product to you. I want you to value my product. I want you to value my service. And I want you to value the entire process, right? That is important to me. I want you to recognize that I value you as a consumer. That may not be yours, your goal. I'm telling you what my goal is in this. Value my product. Recognize that I value. My logistics plan is a communication channel. Such as improving delivery time. Some people say, okay, my logistics plan is about improving delivery times, reducing costs, and increasing customer satisfaction. For me, when I say it's a communication, I include all of that. So the idea here is, my goal is to improve delivery times, which means you would have had a plan, you would have had a process in place, but you may not have had, you just do deliveries. But how do I increase the efficiency of my delivery times? How do I reduce the costs, my shipping costs? By doing things like making sure that you have the right logistics partner. And you don't have to have one, you can have multiple.
Excuse me, Gilbert, I'm not sure we're seeing your right screen. We're still seeing the page with the questions. Does your logistics plan include a return process? Right.
So I don't have, but this is a document that I wrote for us. This is a policy document that I wrote for us. And I'm going to share it with the rest with you guys after. I'm going to put it in a PDF and share it. Okay. Thanks, Roxanne. Yeah. Again, identify your supply chain. Map out your entire supply chain. So in the meantime, in the interim, take notes. So the next step, I think, is I would map out my entire supply chain. How am the products that I'm getting? Map out the entire supply chain from raw material to final delivery. Identify and all the parties involved, including suppliers, manufacturers, distributors, and retailers. If you're doing retail, through another source, through a retailer if you're doing a distribution. And when I go through the rest of the slides, you're going to see this. I talk about how am I receiving the products that I'm selling or the components of that. I have to map that out. How do I warehouse what I've received? How do I sort? How do I pick? How do I pack? How do I communicate with my courier so that they come to pick it up or I drop it off? And how is it delivered? Because I have instructions for all of that. Determine your inventory management strategy. We spoke about this last week and I mentioned it again this week because it's critical. And yes, I'm going to jump back, as Leighton mentioned earlier. You have invested a significant amount of time, energy, and resources building your business. I'd hate to know that you have to take a day off and find out there's been a catastrophic response to something, to a business related matter that caused you to lose money, that caused you to possibly lose your business. And that may take a day, that may take a couple of hours. And because you do not have policies in place and you do not have processes in place, this is the outcome of that. Or you have to take a vacation, or you get sick, God forbid, you get sick, something happens to you. And when you most need the income, the revenue from that business, you need a day to generate it, or there's nothing in place so that it continues to generate revenue. So determine your strategy, your inventory management strategies. Establish how you will manage your inventory, including how much stock you need to keep on hand, how often you will replenish it. This will help you avoid short stock, oversupply, which can both impact customer satisfaction. Now, we know during COVID, we had an issue of supply chain management where you were running short in different stuff, but a lot of that is changing, where a lot of people are buying in bulk and stocking it up. That has actually become a problem. There's just a glut of stuff in a lot of supermarkets, in a lot of stores, right? For a consumer, it's really not an issue because now these stores have to sell it off. But as a business, you'd have bought these things at premium price because shipping costs would have been high. And now you have to sell them at a loss, literally at a loss, so that you can get them off your shelf. So you're not just warehousing product. You're in the business of moving product, not warehousing them. Choose your shipping providers. So your couriers. If you're doing local deliveries, you have so many options. Right? Incorporate them into your system as best possible. As I said, even with a spreadsheet. You know, there's a transportation system that goes from Kingstown to Georgetown. Several drivers that drive, whether it's taxi, minivans, maxi taxi, robots, they move. Do I use them? Is there a trucking service? Is there a particular courier service? Are they efficient? Is my package safe? Do they follow my my processes of getting signatures and IDs to verify the recipient is who's actually supposed to receive this product? The person who got it is supposed to receive it. Am I monitoring them? Monitoring their delivery times? Develop your packing strategy. Sean, every time I see this, I think of you and your business. How am I packing my stuff? Am I packing efficiently? I mean, there are laws coming about now. I know there's bills that are about to be passed here and in Europe about right-size packaging. And if the world is now your marketplace and you're shipping to North America or Europe, you are going to have to abide by these rules or you will be fined. Right-size packaging. Sometimes you receive packages at my apartment and it's a little box that's 1 inch by 1 inch by 1 inch. And it comes in a 2 feet by 2 feet by 2 feet box with just air pillows in it. I'm like, this is such a waste. But it's not just a waste, it is hard on the environment as well. And it costs you because now your shippers are charging you for the size of that box. That's what's inside the box. So what is your packing strategy? Packing and packaging strategy. right? Roxanne talked about one of her strategies is putting gift cards in that box. Right. So what else do I stuff my box with? That for us is that communicates value, that communicates that I value you as a consumer. What messaging do I put inside that box on the box? Some strategies like it's holiday time, it's independence time. Let's say you're in St. Lucia, it's independence time and somebody's ordering your products from you. Hey, you decorate that package in some flags. Do I have a strategy for that? If you don't, you should. How do I capitalize on these opportunities? Am I just sending out a big box with no messaging on it or inside of it? Then I'm missing an opportunity to market, to communicate. Implement quality control process, develop quality control process to ensure that the products are inspected and meet the desired standard before being shipped. So this is your pick and pack process. Don't always just be quick to get your products out the door. All right. Again, I'm going back to, and you have to forgive me. This is why I ask you guys to speak up consistently. I'm going to remember the names of the people who consistently speak up about your products. All right. I look at Wayne and the pride and Roland, the pride that they take in their product. You're not just rushing to get a particular, I'm just rushing to get my products out the door. I'm going to ensure that my bottles of sauces are properly sealed. I'm going to ensure that they're neatly packaged and safely packaged so that they're not going to break by the time they get to my consumers. I can't withstand that loss. And there's an opportunity here for me to communicate, for me to engage. I'm going to take full advantage of that opportunity here. Because if you don't, then you're sending a different message. The communication is taking place without your input, without your system. I'm sending products that are faulty, products that don't meet my standard, products that may have expired. I have to be very careful with my pick and pack process. Again, establish a return policy way before. This is one of the first things that you should think about, my return policy. Check out what your consumer board recommends or has as policy. If it's 14 days, make sure you stay within that 14 days. Now, if you send in a package overseas and you're saying it's 14 days and it takes 7 to 8 days to be delivered. Let's say I'm sending a package from Trinidad to wherever, Germany. Takes 7 days to get there. My return policy is 14 days. Then that person gets it, opens it, and try to return it within that next 7 days. As a consumer from Germany, I'm not going to buy that product. I'm going to say, nah, by the time I get it and open it, no, it doesn't work. Or do I have a courier in Germany that I'm doing business with? Let's say you're using FedEx or DHL to ship from Trinidad to Germany. Is it that they get the product back to DHL by a particular date, not necessarily back to you? And that accounts for your 14 days. Even if you're doing local deliveries, a lot of your purchases are local, but there's a return. I know we have a culture of not returning product in the Caribbean, yes. But again, as I said, your market is going to change. That culture is going to change. There's a whole digital transformation program that's taking place in the Caribbean. And a lot of that is going to be that cultural shift. So on my package, within my package, I have return labels. Or I have a QR code that someone can scan and print out. I don't like that step because that makes it a little bit more difficult for the package to be returned. And some of you might say, well, that's the purpose. I really want them to have a challenge returning this product. But I always want to speak value in the products that I'm selling you. So I want to make it very, very easy for you to see, well, this person trust this product so much that they're providing us with all of this other stuff to return. What are you going to do with it after it gets back? Got to think about that. Have I taken out enough insurance in this aspect of my business process to say, well, after it's returned, I can now donate this to charity, or some organizations, some boys and girls organizations, some schools, some food pantry. Can I donate it and get a tax write-off on it instead of it just being a complete loss? Could I resell this in some sort of sale? Could I do package these and resell them? Is that possible? Is there a hygiene issue behind my products? Because I can't imagine somebody returning your deodorants and opened and you're like, oh my God, I'm going to resell these. No, you have to think about, how am I going to dispose of these? Is there a way for me to get rid of what's inside and reuse the plastic that's encased in this deodorant? I don't know. This is when you talk to someone like Shanigan. What do I do with all of this other stuff that when it gets back here, so that I can reduce that wastage? Invest in technology, implement technology that streamlines your logistics. Again, if you can afford the technology, great. I want to tell you, this is primarily why at Ethnic we invest significantly in these tools, because we know a lot of the businesses cannot afford them. It's expensive. But if you can't even afford the ones that we have, do I have a spreadsheet? A bare minimum. Do I have policies? Do I have processes in place to replace that technology so that even when I'm not there, this is how this return is handled? And again, continue to monitor the performances of getting the product out, of returning. So those are the things you need to cover in the logistics plan. I'll put this in a PDF and share it with you. Any questions? All right. So go back to, I just read to you what our logistics plan entails. And I'm going to go back to the slides now and you see. For me, this entire fulfillment process is sealing the deal. The entire process is a conversation. And for us, what it speaks is value. And I think for you, it should speak the same thing. You have invested time, energy, and a number of resources, opportunity costs to get your business to where it is. So whatever you do, it has got to speak value. It has got to speak towards that investment. You spend in a day, 2 days, whatever that time is, that's valuable time in my opinion. Don't miss the opportunity to present to your consumers what you have just done. Let them see it. Receiving products and components from your suppliers, critical. If I'm going to ensure that the product that my consumer receives is of value, is of particular quality, I have got to ensure that what I'm receiving from my suppliers meet those requirements. One question, 1 minute. Mina has something in the chat. She said, but what if the package gets damaged in the process return and the insurance did not claim the expensive, because we all know that the insurance do not have problem and payback time. Mina, I'm going to give you an opportunity to tell me exactly, to share this comment with the rest of the group. Don't be shy. We can all learn from this. Amina?
Yes, good morning, Mina.
Good morning, yes. Go ahead.
Yes, that's I'm not starting out the online system as yet with my business, but hopefully, yes, I will. But the point is that we all know insurance do have that issue whenever the package return, or even paying an insurance for a normal vehicle or whatever the case is, they have the twist and turn. So what could we do in a process of that?
Right. Good questions. If everyone understands what mean a question is, right? So there's a package that's being returned, or a package is being shipped and it gets damaged. And then you reach out to your insurance and you say, there was a damage. And insurance is going to, they want documentation. Hence, for us, I have insurance on the business side. If I'm not doing that delivery myself, somebody's unmuted and I'm hearing getting a feedback. Is that you, Mina? Let's see.
Yeah, I just had a problem. I just unmute now.
Okay, thanks. Yeah. Yeah, let's say, so if the carrier, typically if you go to FedEx or UPS or DHL, whoever you're using, they would ask you if you want to buy insurance. All right. I typically would say yes. If this package is going overseas, I want some insurance in that package. So I have my business insurance, I have my courier's insurance. Right. I'll tap into one. If it's my insurance, I'm doing my delivery and my insurance is saying it's going to take some time. It's going to take some time. I have to follow what that process is. All right. Another trick of the trade is I'm not sure how it works in the Caribbean, but I know it works. This is the way to work. If I'm doing delivery in my vehicle here, and that vehicle gets broken into, and that package gets something happen to the package, I get into an accident. My auto insurance will also cover those packages. But if insurance is involved and you have to wait, there's very little you can do with the insurance. You're gonna have to make sure that your customer, again, refocus and say, well, my consumer, my customer, my eventual evangelist is what's important to me. So I have to ensure that this person is satisfied with what they have, with what I'm doing. So I ensure that satisfaction. And on the back end, I have to wait. When you think about the value of what was shipped, as opposed to the value of having your of achieving customer satisfaction, you have to weigh those, right? All right, so I was saying, receiving products or components from your suppliers is as important as what you deliver. I have to ensure that whenever I'm receiving, my receiving process allows for proper inspection of what I'm getting from my supplier. It also has to ensure that I have some sort of a service agreement with the supplier. The supplier is ensuring me that the products that I'm getting from him is of a particular quality. And I still do my spot check. I still ensure that I open a few boxes and I check to make sure that what is supposed to come, what I bought, I did receive. Ensure that they're quality. Good. Now I have some sense of satisfaction. The components that I'm supposed to put into my products are the ingredients. Like Wayne, if you're going to attest to your pepper sauce, to your barbecue sauce, you have to ensure that what goes into your barbecue sauce is consistent. So you're buying from local suppliers, whenever you receive them, you have to check and make sure. Even if it's once a week, 2 to 3 times a month, I'm verifying the ingredients that's going into my barbecue sauce meet my standards. Because that now changes the taste of that barbecue sauce. Which speaks to another point, right? Finding suppliers who are going to be consistent with what they deliver to you, especially when you're making products that are edible. You say, oh, this is a particular taste. If you're making clothing, I have to ensure that the material I have, a very good friend and client that I often go to the garment district. to get fabric. And on 3 occasions, I'm buying exactly the same fabric. The order did not change for the year, but every time I went to the garment district, the fabric was a slightly different color. Come buying black. Okay, black is black. No, if you're into clothing design and clothing making, you would realize black is not just black. There's slight variation in what black could come like. And my order is exactly the same. But if she if she ran out of material while making a particular dress, and then she gets this new supply, and it's slightly different, what happens? There's a mismatch. So even for you now, you're buying, when you have to ensure that products that you're receiving are consistent. They are what you asked for, because you cannot ship that on to a consumer and expect to get great reviews and expect to communicate value. Thanks, Wayne. Wayne is saying absolutely correct. You have to make sure, yes. All right. Picking and packing. We spoke about this last week as well. When I'm picking, how do I set up my space? No, sorry, storing and warehousing. How do I set up my space for efficiency? Whether that's a big warehouse or whether that's warehousing my space, my brick and mortar space, or my home, wherever I'm doing that business. How am I, if I'm making clothing out of my home? Do I take one room and I say, I'm using this space for fabrics, and I have buttons and I have threads and I have all these different things properly laid out, so I know I can visibly see when I'm running out of stuff. I'm selling products. I'm now warehousing whatever space I have. I'm going to give you an example. When you go back to the start of Alibaba, Alibaba allowed vendors to sell out to the back of their cars. And when you go back to those stories of when these guys were selling out, and you see how they would set up their vehicles, like, wow, it looks like a storefront, a mobile storefront. Everything properly organized. This is the warehousing aspect of storing your products. It allows for efficiency. It allows for efficiency in the picking and packing. It allows for efficiency in your inventory management. It allows for efficiency in your inventory verification. It also allows you to properly spot check things when you need to. And then I have a policy for picking and packing. No? First in, first out. We spoke about this last week. Sorry, I have that mouse problem with my mouse jumping around. I'll have returned it. Yeah. Carol just made a comment and she was saying, if using the parallel example, getting what you see is not always the case. The color variation online is not always what you receive in the order. That is so true. That is so true. I can tell you, I just got some socks in the mail and I know what I saw online, and when I got them, completely different. It's one of the things in the fast fashion industry, right? Which are knockoffs. What the market is now calling dupes. You're not calling them knockoff anymore. It's duplicate, but it's actually a knockoff. And when you get the product, go ahead.
No, I was saying, sorry to interrupt you, but I was saying that when you're ordering online, the variations in color are sometimes so different to what you actually receive. You're thinking that you're receiving a color that you've selected as pink. And that is, I'm just using that as an example, and that's not always the case. And it's not just color sometimes, it's other things as well. So when you say that you have to make certain that what you get is what you order, sometimes that can be a little tricky.
Yeah, it is.
Based on the situation.
Right. And this is why it's important to have a good policy, return policy in place. Because I got their socks and they're not what I was looking for. So for me, I just zip back the bag, Jump online, I say, I want to return it. Done. That's it. Simple. And they're going to ask you, what do you want to do with the money? Do you want the money going back to your card, or do you want it going towards a credit? Again, simple option that ensures that your business stays running. The fact that you're offering me the option, and this is part of the return process, right? You're offering me the option to either put back the money on my credit card, or put the money towards a credit in my store so that I could come back to that store and get something else. It's fantastic for you as a business owner. You're not losing anything. You're reassured that this person is going to come back and get something else from your business. All right. So the delivery process, as we spoke about. So who's your courier? Do I have that properly mapped out? The return process, do I have that properly mapped out, planned? The outsourcing of logistics, I'm not doing my own logistics. I am using a third-party logistics company, of course, third-party courier. Or am I doing 3PL, third-party logistics, meaning I'm warehousing my product somewhere else. They're going to do the picking, packing, and shipping and handle all returns on my behalf. All right. So there's two options within the outsourcing of logistics. The logistics as in the actual delivery, the last mile delivery of this product from my store to your house, from my store to your place of business. Or am I doing pickup? Am I creating pickup windows? I'm going to speak about these things coming up. Logistics inventory man, again, a lot of what I'm doing here, you're going to find repeating it because to me, this is really, really important. So I told you what I'm going to talk about. I'm going to summarize what I'm going to talk about. I'm going to elaborate what I'm talking about. Proper inventory management, inventory integration is mandatory. Separate your inventory based on channel. If you do not have proper software solution that manages all channels in a single place, you can separate them. What does that mean? I have a brick and mortar store, I'm selling shoes, but I also have an online space that's selling shoes. But I do not have a single integration application that says I can monitor what is being sold in my brick and mortar and what is being sold online. That usually requires a little bit more than just inventory management. That requires integration with a point of sale system. You separate them because you don't want, I just sold something online out of the stock that is in my brick and mortar. And then someone actually came into the brick and mortar and took that shoes. Then I have to go back to my consumer and say, hey, that shoes that you just bought that you were supposed to get in 2 days is no longer available. Would you be willing to get something else? No, I really needed that pair of shoes. I have a job interview come Monday. I'll come next week, and I really wanted that particular pair of shoes because it's going to make me feel more confident. I feel disappointed now. This is why you separate if you do not have an inventory management system tied in with a point of sale system that allows for multi-channel sales. Manual inventory management integration usually requires anything that requires you entering data into record keeping system. So again, Excel spreadsheets. So I know what I received. I write it down. I know what I sold. I wrote it down. I know which channel I sold. I have that written down. I have that documented. Below, I talk about automated inventory management with the POS. So every sale gets recorded in an automatic manner. I know what product was sold via which channel, via which branch of my brick and mortar. I have several brick and mortar locations. I know which one was sold, which one this product was sold. I know what's also remaining in that space. Let's say I decide to do an inventory management, an inventory check. I don't know if it still happens. I haven't seen this in a while, but a lot of times, a lot of stores were closed for stock taking. now go through the system and they say, well, our inventory said we're supposed to have these, but this is exactly what we have. They would have lost a good 20 to 30% of their product value to lost the property, theft, disappeared, it walked. But you're now finding out at the end of the year, whenever you choose to do that, which is months after the products actually walk. Having proper systems in place could prevent a lot of that. ERP is recommended inventory management, point of sale system. This is an automated system. And again, as I said, understanding that this is what makes or break businesses. When we started building our platform was mainly front facing. We just concerned about the sales, and then implementing it, realized now that part is easy. This part, this ERP, enterprise resource planning tools, inventory management, point of sale system, sales management, product management, data analysis, all of that stuff should be implemented in your system if you want to grow efficiently. We're focusing our energy in this aspect of the business. I think is the greatest investment that we have made. Data analysis and reporting is what directs your logistics decision and how you allocate your resources. My follow-up session, maybe next week or week after, I'm not sure, is going to be focused on data analysis and how that drives your decisions, right? Including how it integrates with inventory management. A part of this now is taking feedback from your end customers on your delivery and that delivery experience. Whether it's the experience with the customer, with the product itself, or just the entire experience on the delivery, and how that now speaks back and speaks volume to how I stock and what I stock and how I get it out the door. Any question? Any comments? All right, so hey, all I have is a very simple diagrams and how we do this. Delivery from my manufacturer, supplier, I verify it. So what is a spreadsheet? Or how, in our case, the application is on your cell phone, you know what your order is. You have your invoice, and you go through and you scan and say, yes, got this. Open up a few boxes, spot check, make sure that everything is verified. Warehouse it, document that, verify, right? Properly sorted and shelved, everything. There's a verification as I go through every step of this thing. My inventory management remains consistent. I always know what is in my possession. Yeah, I just have a note from Katia, and I'm taking special note on the warehousing aspect. Due to lack of doing this, quite often I may find an item that I thought that I had is already sold out. Yeah, it happens. So here we go. Examine and verify what you have received. Inventory management, warehousing management, purchase management. All right. Again, I like to tie these things, and I know a lot of these systems are not readily available to you in the Caribbean, especially if you're doing your own website, because a lot of these solutions can be, at least automated solutions, can be costly. But if you're going to do, if you're going to be doing e-commerce, you have to come up with a system, even that is pen and paper or an Excel sheet. All right. Inventory management, warehouse management, purchase management, key tools. I need to know what I purchase. And when it comes in, I need to properly inventory it and I need to properly warehouse it. Again, don't get scared by the word warehousing. This could be your brick and mortar space. It could be the van that you're selling out of. Sort store per sales, sort and store per sales channel. So again, we go back to whether you're doing a brick and mortar sale or an e-commerce sale. And then if you want to break out your e-commerce channel into multiple channels, multiple sub-channels, Facebook, WhatsApp, Instagram, separate. Or if, when you do sell, if you don't sell, if you don't separate, and you're telling people on WhatsApp, okay, I still have products you no longer have with the e-commerce channel, you need to let them know. You need to update that communication and say, well, we no longer have products available. Update your inventory and your suppliers. And I hope you guys, as you take notes and as you listen, you realize that a lot of these systems that I'm talking about are time consuming. They're taxing on you as a business owner. This is why your planning is important. Your processes is important because you're going to need to have resources to help you out in situations like this. Even if you're a small business, then you still have to go back to that time management plan. How do I manage my time and how do I manage all of these processes? Hence, if you have automated software, it helps. Could be a little, as I said, it could be a bit expensive, but it really is cost effective. As I said, this is what we do. It's a shameless plug, but we realize a lot of the businesses in the Caribbean cannot. This is a challenge to afford these solutions. Hence, we develop them primarily for our small businesses throughout the region. Your store is your warehouse, and your shelves are categorized in sorted areas. I hope you guys understand what that means. So I'm using my brick and mortar as my warehouse, but my shelf is where I sort and organize, categorize the products that I'm selling, if I'm selling different products. Even if I'm selling the same product, but in different variations. I'm making one exact type of shoes that everybody loves, but I make them in different colors. I can sort them within that space. Organize them, categorize them. If your staff is picking and packing, all right, you have a pick and packing staff, or you have a pick and pack schedule for yourself because you're a one-man shop. So an order comes in, but between 2 p.m. and 4 p.m. is when I pick and pack. So order comes in, I pick, I pack. Verify what I'm picking, verify what I'm packing. Then I update my inventory to say, well, I've picked and I've packed these things and they're going out. Verifying what I have picked. As I said, mistakes would cost you and they may cost you customers. So making a mistake and giving a refund may cost you a few dollars. When they cost you a customer, when you think of the value of that customer over a period of time, it's significantly more. It's essentially what you're protecting. But it also may cost you your good name, goodwill. Don't want that. It takes a long time to build that. It may cost you a brand. Don't want that either. Because the day you decide to pivot from one business or one business model to the next and you're going along with the same brand, your good name would follow you, but so will that bad name. As best you can, have a product per package plan. So based on what product it is, and I spoke about this earlier, you have a plan of how you're going to package it. This step can be negotiated with the courier ahead of time, so you have a command of what your shipping cost would be. So don't be scared. Reach out to your couriers. Have them come into your business. get Tatian with your products, right? If you are making dresses and they go in a particular box and you want them to go, or you want it to be shipped in a particular way, your courier is always looking for business. The more business they can drum up, better for them. And you have them come in, or again, Wayne, you have them come in, you have them look at what you're packaging, and you said, I want to be able to ship these not just locally. I want to be able to ship them regionally, internationally. What do you recommend my packaging look like? What size box for efficiency? And efficiency includes costs and protecting my product, or protecting the value that I'm shipping in this box. Label for proper handling and precise delivery. Important. If what you have in there is fragile, do not hesitate to say that it's fragile. If it contains batteries, you have to be very, very clear that it contains lithium products. Anything that is flammable. I know people who make colognes, perfumes, there's restrictions on how those are shipped by air. It may not be able to be shipped by air. And you may decide, okay, I am not going to label this properly. I'm going to try to beat the system. And then you'll put $100,000 fine. Or worse, because $100,000 fine may be the easy end of it. Your products cause an explosion. And are you responsible for the lives of others? So I have to be very, very mindful of how I do this. This again is where you call in your courier and he says, I'm shipping this particular product. What risk do you see with me shipping this product? How do you recommend that I package and ship this product for efficiency? Based on your return process, this is where you place the return label in the box. I discourage this. Psychological factors and other costs and time associated with printing that label now. All right, so what I was trying to say in this particular statement, which doesn't seem to be reading easily, is what we spoke about earlier. Do I put a QR code that allows them to just print? I know for many years, until recently, Amazon recommended that, Amazon process was that you do this. And I used Amazon as the biggest online retailer. So they will send you a QR code, they will send you a shipping label that you have to print out and put in a box. But then they realized this was not only costly for them, it was costly for their consumers. And then they went ahead and they bought Whole Foods. Now all you do is you just send your QR code, you drop it off at one of these stores, then they scan it, and it's done. Process is done, complete. Makes me want to buy more products with this customer, with this business, because that entire process is easier. You have to examine what your circumstances are. What is my situation here? What instills confidence in my consumers? What speaks value to my consumers? Again, I go back to what my overall mission is and what my goals are with my logistics plan. If yours is just reducing returns, reducing shipping costs and all of that stuff, then your method is different. Then your method is, yeah, I'm going to force my consumers to fill out a form, print a label, find a box, and ship it back to me, because I'm now charging 20% restocking fee. And you can do that. There are products that should be done. I gave the story of last year. I had to buy a mechanic thought my battery was failing. So I went to my dealer and I got a battery. And the battery cost me close to $200, $220, somewhere around there. Then he realized, oh, battery is not a problem. One day later, I wanted to return this battery to the dealer. And there was a 50% restocking fee. 50%. Do I return that battery? Oh man, I take that battery from you and get home and then all of a sudden returning it. So I have to drive to your store, buy it for 220. I don't want it. I return it the next day, less than 24 hours, and you charging me $120 to bring it back. That didn't make any sense to me. But to the business, it didn't have to make sense to me, man. They just made it very, very difficult for me to return it. And there's nothing I could do about it. They're in a line of business that allows them to force that decision. There's nothing I could do about it. You may be in a different position. So you have to examine, again, at the end of the day, what are your goals? I can see this if you're spending big ticket items, furniture, household appliances. How am I handling that? It's part of my return policy. If I'm selling furniture or if I'm selling household appliances, but before you return, we will send someone out to take a look at what the challenges are. If I'm selling appliances, I'm asking you, make sure that you take your on my online space, I'm asking you to take proper measurements. Because there is a 30% restocking fee. If this fridge has to come back, if this washing machine has to come back, if this stove has to come back, if there is going to be a restocking fee. That is fair. But these are big ticket items with very expensive shipping costs. So you have to examine your situation. Last mile, last yard delivery process. And from the time, and you guys know I feel very serious about this, from the time a consumer visits your page, or prior to that, for those of you who are engaged in social media, prior to them visiting your page, it's a constant communication, a communication, constant conversation. With your courier, it's a communication process that feeds your communication with your consumer. An order takes place, you communicate with the courier. Let's say, I have an agreement with my courier. You're taking packages that are going from point A to point B that are within a certain weight and has to get there within a particular time frame. So there's an order going from point A that is under 2 pounds and it has to get there within 4 days. I know exactly who my courier is for that. I have an agreement in place with them for this. The order comes in, I get it, I verify it, verify my pick and pack, I communicate with that courier. In our system, this is fully automated. That courier is built into our system, that order process is built into our system. Boom. One step, our vendor said, this order is picked and packed and ready for pickup automatically. Message gets sent over the wire. The courier is alerted. Katyan has a package that needs to be delivered in Bridgetown. Courier shows up. Katyan goes out. She says, courier says, I'm here to pick up this package. There's a label on the package. He scans that and he says, and the system automatically reads and says, this package is now in the possession of the courier. Verification takes place. Customer gets alerted. Package is out for delivery. All right. The courier makes a friendly delivery. Again, the consumer, the recipients signs off on that. Communication goes out to the customer, back to our systems. A drop-off verification has taken place. It's a happy customer because now I'm asking this customer to give me some feedback. And hopefully this leads to a repeat of that customer. But all along this entire thing, along this process, you see the points of communication, constant communication, constant conversation with your consumer. And what are you communicating? Value. I value this entire process. I value the product that I'm selling to you. I value you as a consumer. And I value the process. I value my business. This is important to me. And I'm going to assume that it is important to you. You have spent the time building your business. And what we have here now is what I've just showed you in picture. Shipping label is printed, and courier and customer should be alerted, preferably through an automated system. We do have challenges, right? I know part of the digital transformation process that has taken place throughout the Caribbean. E-commerce is a very big part of that. But one of the challenges with the e-commerce is delivery and delivery addresses. In a lot of countries, there's no house number and street names that go. There's street names, some not official, but there are no house numbers, there are no zip codes. There's none of that. So developing a system that still allows for proper delivery of the packages, of orders, is important. We use a couple of systems. We use GPS, we use what tree works, we use a number system. Within our system, we can make a delivery, even if you're on a yacht in the ocean. And the systems allow for that. It's just a matter of incorporating those things. All right. For delivery efficiency, develop local delivery zones. So you see, within a mile, within 2 miles, I can make that delivery within 4 hours if you pay a premium, or I can make that delivery within a day if you pay a premium on that delivery. It's one of the things I try to discourage in the region, is these expedited delivery that put an undue strain on people and on the system. If you're going to offer next day delivery, 2-day delivery, or same day delivery, put a premium price on it. Let them pay for that. I know some of you may disagree with me, and if you do, I'd like to hear your opinion on that. All right. When I look at what happens here with same day delivery and next day delivery, and the strain that has been put in on Amazon drivers, on FedEx drivers, on UPS drivers, the rate of accidents and the fatality that comes out of those accidents because people are rushing to make these deliveries on items that you really don't need as a same day delivery. But because it's available, you make yourself think, okay, that's the option that I'm going to choose. Like often when I go to Amazon, and again, these are strategies that you can use. There was an option, rather than having it in 2 days, I can have it on what is called my Amazon day. That may be Friday. And that allows me to say, okay, I'm going to take it on Friday, and Amazon gives me $2 or $3 towards something else. For me, it makes sense. I don't need it. I don't need it tomorrow. Also, consciously, I understand the strain that it puts on the system to do that. And I'm going to choose getting it in 5 days and get $2 for doing that, or $3 for doing that. See how that works, all right? So you have those options as well. Create delivery zones, 2 mile, 4 mile, countrywide. I'm delivering to a particular parish within this period of time. Work with your post office, to determine zones and pricing. Again, this goes back to what I was saying before. Hold on 1 second. All right, sorry about that, guys. Let me get back to where I was. Yeah, so work with your post office and your courier to determine these delivery zones and pricing. This is not our area of expertise. This is not your area of expertise. If it is, then you should be in the logistics business. All right. So communicate with your post office, communicate with your courier and says, okay, what do you suggest as different zones, and what are your pricing for those zones? And yes, you are going to pass on this pricing to your consumers, but you want to make this a price that encourages sales. Or you might take these prices and then incorporate them into your pricing formula and then offer free shipping. But it's not free. You've spoken to your courier. You know what is covered in what zone. You've done a leveling of these prices and incorporated into the price of the product, the sales price of the product. Now you're offering free shipping. See, free shipping, not really. You have built this into your product pricing. Order cutoff times, important again. If you're offering 2-day shipping or 5-day shipping, you should say, well, if you order today before 4, then you could have it in 2 days. If not, it goes, then you'll have it by, if today's Thursday. If you order today by 5 o'clock, then you will have it by Saturday. Fine. But if you don't order by 5, then you're not going to have it until Sunday or Monday. Go ahead, Roxanne.
Actually, can you go back to that last slide, please?
Yeah, sorry
Yes,
about that.
thank you. But my thinking is about how do we control, manage that shipping element, right? So we all know it's costly to ship out of the Caribbean. And so we now have to do things like we see from the platform, we see people buying products that may even cost less than the shipping.
Correct.
You know, where the shipping, so they want the products, they're interested in them, they fit into their lifestyle, or they, meet some dietary, whatever need that they have. So they want the product. So even when I was going through the exercise with pricing, to add the price of shipping into the price of the product, now makes it all a little expensive,
Yes. Yes.
And then the other point of that is that then, we've tried to encourage bundling. So, the package with one beauty care item could potentially hold 3 others. Correct. For the same, shipping price. So, that's an area that we have to also consider as, as vendors, where, and try to put things together that a customer might like to buy, as opposed to just putting one product up, one product. Maybe we try to bundle things.
Yeah. That's definitely an option, right? I met a vendor out of Grenada who's making t-shirts, and I tell you, absolutely beautiful t-shirts. T-shirts were reasonably priced as well. They was $25 a piece. But when I tried to buy them, I mean, just to ship them to where I am here in New York, it's like $40. I'm like, no, I can't do that. I really cannot do that. So over the last month, again, it speaks to some of the challenges that we face doing business in the Caribbean. Again, we develop, what we do, we look in the region and we see what the challenges are. And we say, okay, we're going to develop solutions to bridge those challenges, to mitigate the risk of those challenges. So we had an opportunity to work with Caribbean agency at Caribbean Export. But the way that the proposal worked is that we had to work with one government agency, one business agency, and then we collaborate and we get funding for it. So we had this idea of doing, it's still in production, but just means someone else was going to pay for it and probably a little faster. And this is freight consolidation. So Roxanne is shipping a package. Roxanne is shipping a box and it's coming to New York. or wherever it's going, but the cost of that box, and she has much more space in that box. Even for the vendors on your site, you do something like this, right? And you said, we have a package that is going. Is there any other thing that we can fit into this package that we can distribute once it gets to its destination, reducing the overall shipping cost? We look at this from a container perspective. So you're shipping a container out of Barbados, and I only have enough products to do a quarter. But we have a platform where we put it out there that says anyone else who can utilize this space, reach out to us. The platform allows you to fill in all the details and tell you the prices, exactly what you're going to pay. So that freight consolidation allows for an economy of scale that reduces the shipping cost for everyone. And you will not believe the challenges that we've had. We call in some of these agencies, and it was very specific to the countries that we can work with. And we call in the government agencies for some 3-4 weeks and no response. I mean, no response. And then we spoke with a couple of couriers out of Jamaica. I was reluctant to say Jamaica. And we pitched the idea, and they said, no, there's absolutely no benefits of this solution. None. The port manager from Jamaica was on the call, and he's like, this is crazy, because all I see are benefits. And I pointed out how e-commerce businesses can benefit from this solution, because the cost of shipping is just astronomical. Doesn't make sense. But if we can do freight consolidation in small boxes and get them out, it would be great. So Roxanne, I know exactly what you're talking about, and we're working now to develop solutions that are going to mitigate that. We're also doing third-party logistics out of the United States. So coming together with people like yourself and other small businesses in the Caribbean, consolidating container loads of products and actually do third-party logistics out here. So an order comes in, and that order gets transmitted directly to the warehouses here, and they get shipped out. Currently working on those solutions, but I feel your pain. I know exactly what you're talking about. Bundling is an option, but it's much better when you can do freight consolidation and reduce those prices on a wholesale level. Cutoff times, order cutoff times you just spoke about, and customer pickup windows. This is something that we encourage for local, just to reduce the possible shipping costs. If you do pickup windows for your business, and you say, my pickup windows, if you order today before 10 o'clock, you can pick up this afternoon between 4 and 6. So as consumers are on their way home, they can just stop by your business. You would have had all of those orders that came in before 10 a.m. packed and ready for pickup. The consumer shows up at your business. You have the package ready. You verify consumer is the correct one to actually pick up this package based on the codes that you would have sent out, and via an app that you have running, and business keeps flowing. Part of the business processing plan or the time management plan, you can fit it in there, and you say, well, I am closing order fulfillment between 4 and 6, and I'm going to focus on just handing off packages that people would have ordered for pickup. Easy way of doing it. So building your website or using a platform like ours or Roxanne's, and you say, all right, between these times, here is all the vendors. This is the time that you do order pickup for efficiency. All right, return process. Again, if you guys have any questions, feel free to jump in. The return process, the customer is dissatisfied. Don't wait for that. Again, as I said, we have triggers in our system. Once we realize the courier would have delivered the package, because we get an alert once the courier gets a sign off on the consumer, because again, there's we have an ecosystem. So the consumer signs and say, yes, I've received. Our system sends out an email asking, how is your interaction with that product? Are you satisfied? Are you not satisfied? They may not get to that email immediately, but it's there within their inbox. So they jump in the inbox, Or they have, just like Roxanne suggested, there is a QR code within that box that they scan. And they scan and they say, well, this is my feedback and that experience, and I need to return the product. So within that now, there's entire process. I want to return as an option. So I'd like to return the product. There's an option, again, based on your return policies, print. I want to print a return label. And you state all of the stipulations with that goes along with that return. There's a $30, 30% restocking fee, whatever it is. You communicate it. And then based on their decision, that entire process start. Return is set up. If you have a local courier that's picking up that package, once the consumer says, I'm returning the package, and they would have signed all the documents, agreed to whatever the process is, the courier also gets alerted. So there's a communication that's taking place there. Courier shows up, pick up the package, or if it has to be dropped off at your place, again, part of the process. You decide, but don't wait until the last minute to decide. Make sure that you have a plan and a process in place. If you have to refund, the refund option is, do you want me to put this money back to your credit card, your debit card, your bank account, or do you want this money to go towards a credit on the system? Right? Verification, notice sent, or money has been returned to your card, or money is now available for as credit on our website so that you can make your next purchase. You update your inventory. All right. Hopefully you would have had a plan in place of what am I going to do with this return product. I'm hoping that you do. I'm hoping that you would have spoken to, again, someone in the capacity or Shan who could advise you on how do I recycle this particular thing. Is there a different agency that I could work with for reusing it? Or how can I resell it? These are plans that you should have in place for the efficiency of your business, for the satisfaction of your customers, so that you can maintain the value of what you do. Again, what I have here is exactly what's in that image. There's an image aspect to it, there's text of what returns. Returns are expensive. Could lead to chargebacks and could lead to you not being allowed to accept payments on your site. Could lead to you losing your business. So how do you do that? Ensure that your customer, as best you can, ensure that your customers are satisfied. Have a communication, have a conversation, engage with your consumers as much as you can. You tell the doctors that are sued here in the United States are the ones who do not communicate well with their patients. Customer engagement is important. You may be surprised that somebody receives something and they're being disgruntled about it just because they do not know how to use it. Or if you're having a genuine conversation with that person, communication with that person, and they receive it, maybe slightly dissatisfied, but they like you. They like the fact that you have been treating them with value. So they decide to keep it. So satisfy your customer, not your customer. Deliver what they ordered. Your customer engagement channels open, communicate. Some customers will never be satisfied. Put policies in place to safeguard yourself. Limit the amount of returns you allow. Another part of the return policy. So you could say, I think I gave this example where my returns to Home Depot. Home Depot have a cap on the amount of returns you can do in a year. After your 40th return, they're like, nah, you can't return any more products. That's written in their policies. Those are things you can think about. If you have a particular consumer that consistently returns products, you put a cap on it. Because that person is actually a burden to your system. You say, no number of returns. Or you can say, after your 10th return, or your 15th or your 20th, you decide. You have to look at your situation. You say, well, after the 10th one, there's a 10% restocking fee. After the 15th, there's a 20th. There's a 20% restocking fee. After the 20th, there's a 50% restocking fee. You have to examine what your situation is. All right. Again, keep a record of all your communications with your customer. I know this is a bit challenging if you're doing pen and paper. This is why most of our systems are automated. So even when, I guess you guys see that when you jump on a call with a customer service rep, you often hear that this call is being recorded. For our system, if you're dealing with one of our people who on our chat, whatever you're chatting with them is being recorded automatically. So when you put chatbots or you have a messaging communication system in place, that's being recorded. Keep a copy of it. So the next time Roxanne calls back and she's complaining about something and you realize this conversation is completely different from what she was complaining about before, you have a record of that. You have a record that you can share with your credit card processor, just in case there's a challenge. Now, I'm not sure. I'm going to go back to the first point. Avoid returns. Returns expensive and could lead to chargebacks. Chargebacks are when the credit card, I know I didn't explain this, and when the credit card companies receive a complaint about your product or your service, and the consumer wants back their money. And they're saying, well, I spoke to the business and the business does not want to refund me. The credit card processor now takes back that money from you. But because they had to do that, that's a charge against you. That's a mark against your business. It's saying that you're not a trustworthy business. And enough of these chargebacks, they would stop you from processing credit cards. And if you're in e-commerce, processing payments online is fundamental. So you avoid that at all costs. Policymakers should put policies in place to protect both business and consumers. Again, this is what we spoke about earlier, having a return policy, process. Set up online return process for your customers. So if you don't have it in the package that was being delivered, or even if it's in the package, it may just be a QR code that allows them to come back to your website to complete that process. But remember, this is an opportunity to communicate. This is an opportunity to possibly generate another sale. Verify your return product. So you can imagine how important this is. If I sell you a pair of shoes, I know this was a pair of red sneakers, red Adidas sneakers, and then I get a return and it's a blue, whatever, man, something completely different. How are we dealing with that before we do the refund? So you gotta verify those returns. Check them, make sure that what they say that they're sending back to you is exactly what it is. You might want to look and see what type of damages, and you say, well, is it worth it having a dispute with the consumer about the damages to this product as it's being returned? Where did the damage, or are you going to verify where did the damage take place? Did it happen with my courier? Did it happen with the consumer? All of that stuff. Once you verify the return and the return is legitimate, refund promptly, communicate with the consumer, with the customer, make them an offer. So don't just say, well, you return your stuff and I'm going to refund you. I say, I'm offering you another 10%. I'll offer you 10% on your next purchase. So the thing is, you're trying to offer that return, you're trying to generate another sale. No refund returns, or no return refunds. So there's some items that when you look at what it's going to cost to return the product and the value of the product, you say to the consumer, just go ahead and keep that product and I'll just refund you. My thing is, in that instance, you encourage them to make a donation with that product, with that product that they would have received. Encourage them to give it to some charity or the other if they're not going to use it, if they're not going to utilize it. Now, maybe you really believe they should, or maybe you don't care. But communicating that, again, speaks volume. The fact that you're thinking about how else this product could be utilized and that it's not just going to waste speaks volume to that consumer. Uh, 3PL outsourcing logistics. 3PL services a third party logistics, third party logistics services. And this is where you typically ship your products off to a warehouse, someplace where it's stored. Now that warehouse has a warehousing system, inventory management system that's tied into your website. When an order comes in on your website, that order gets transmitted over to this third-party logistics service. They have what your logistic plan is. They have all your packing material. This is something that you can negotiate with them. When the package comes, when that order comes in, they pick a pack and they ship based on your plan, based on your objectives, based on your process. Again, as I said, this is something that you can work out with them. Based on where you have or where you're utilizing the services, the costs vary. If you're shipping a pallet load of products to this warehouse, that's one cost. It's a cost for them to receive it. It's a cost for them to warehouse it. It's a cost for them to sort it. It's a cost for them to pick and pack. So a lot of them would give you a package plan that includes all of that. It's a great way if you're trying to reach the consumer market in North America and Europe. The responsibility of pushing the sales is now on your side. The communications is still your responsibility. A regular check of your inventory is still your responsibility. Right? Get a third party, get an SLA from your 3PL and drop shipment supply. Drop shipment now is, again, I just have the website. I'm not touching the products. I know Leighton spoke at length about this. Excuse me. I'm not touching the product. I have a manufacturer that's manufacturing these things, or I have a distributor that's distributing these products that are already manufactured. An order comes in on my website, that order gets transmitted over to the drop shipper, and they just pack and pick, the pick and pack and just ship out. I control the communication with the consumer. I'm constantly updated as to, and hopefully you are, once you have a good drop shipper or a good 3PL service, I am constantly updated as to that last mile delivery. Has my consumer received it? And then I still control the feedback, right? Get a service level agreement from either of them that says, here's my policy, here's my shipment, here's my logistics policy. You guys need to follow that. You need to follow that 99.999% of the times. And if it's not followed, here are the consequences, here's the repercussions, here are how I'm going to be compensated, or how my consumers are going to be compensated. So make sure you have service level agreements in place for that. Make sure you have an inventory management integrated, right? So you need to know if I'm selling and I'm saying on my website, or my inventory management system is saying I have 100 pieces still available at this 3PL or the job shippers. I need to verify that that is correct. They need to be either it's integrated with my system, my online system, or you're sending me regular reports, daily reports that says, here's how that product is moving. You still need data analysis and reporting to direct how you allocate your limited resources. All right? And I'm going to speak at length of data analysis and reporting in my next session. This is just an estimated cost. This is what cost used to be. Receiving flat rate $25 to receive the first 2 hours, $35 man hour after the first 2 hours. So if you're shipping, let's say you're shipping a container load of stuff from the Caribbean to a third-party logistics warehouse in North America for distribution, and they're charging you $25 for the first 2 hours of receiving. So if they unpack an entire container and that container takes more than 2 hours, just add up the cost here. Storage, $40 per pallet per month. And then if they're just taking up shelf space, it's $10 per shelf per month. Or if it's a bin, if they're just treating a product as a bin, $5 per bin, the size of the bin. Pick and pack is included in that cost. So the first 5 pick and packs are included. And anything after that is 20 cents per pick and pack, depends on the size of the item and all that stuff. They would tell you this once you have that communications with them. These are just some example prices. All right. All right, so this is the end of logistics, which including fulfillments. Now open for questions, suggestions, conversations. Let's go. What did you get? What's the takeaway? Was this helpful in helping you develop your logistics plan? Any questions of what your logistics plans might entail? How can we tailor this to suit you? This is the time you ask those questions. Roxanne, go ahead.
Sorry, so this is an area that is very dear to my heart, right? We've been making certain headway, but can we, as a collective, because these are some issues that, any entrepreneur trying to deal with them individually are a huge challenge. So is there a way for us to, through Carib Export or through this group, lobby for certain things? Is there, what are there any next steps that you could tell us about? You mentioned about your the consultancy that you're doing with the shipping, solutions. Can that include in negotiating with the carriers? Can that include negotiating for some kind of a Caribbean collective warehouse space in Miami, right? Just things that could then make this, because the more and more we talk about digitization and e-commerce, if those, those elements that the last mile, you had it as that the last mile delivery, if that's not worked out, then we're going to still have problems. We can, we can get people interested in the things, but if they can't get it in less than 5 days, and people want things immediately, right? 5 days, 7 days. If we can't get it to them where they are at their homes, so they don't have to go out anywhere to pick it up, and at a good rate, we're gonna be, we're gonna continue to just be doing marketing and promotions. But to be able to do that final leg where they get the things, I think some lobbying needs to happen.
Yeah. So you're preaching. Yeah. So those are definitely challenges, and those are challenges that, and as you rightfully stated, are not just technological, right? That requires negotiating. That requires policies. I've had numerous conversations, and I'm almost certain that you would have with FedEx, UPS, not UPS, FedEx, DHL, and what's the other one that operates in that space? They're not interested. They have not been interested in moving products out to the Caribbean. They have not been interested in moving products throughout the Caribbean. Blatantly, they would tell you that, and that's not their interest. So yes, we have been working with a number of organizations to do exactly what you're talking about. There's one in particular, and before I got on this program this morning, that's what we were discussing. You know, this is a Caribbean courier who operates out of Miami, and getting them to transform their warehousing space to do third-party logistics specifically for Caribbean products. And they have really good consolidation plans for container loads of stuff moving out to the Caribbean. To move the containers out to the Caribbean, I'm trying to get them to move in the direction where now they're actually distributing the products on our behalf in North America. All right, so those are coming on stream. We have a logistics conference that's coming up in November in Miami. I'll make sure that I send out an invitation to anyone that wants to attend. I know Roxanne, you'll probably be very interested in that. And it's about moving products throughout the Caribbean and from the Caribbean to the global north via air and via sea. But yes, it does require us working together for economies of scale, for this to be an efficient business. In fact, that we, go ahead.
I just want to jump in here quickly, Gilbert. I've been listening to the discourse, especially around shipping headaches. And one, I've been working with a local entity who is focused on target market in the US, Canada, UK. And their biggest headache is the cost for shipping their products. Logistics cost is just too prohibitive. That's their primary market, makes it difficult on the table. One of the things that we've looked at is actually employing the services of Amazon to deliver to those markets. So, you know, we think about e-commerce, and often we think about e-commerce within our own domain. Think about it on our own website, we think about it on Caribbean-based marketplaces. But Amazon presents an opportunity for overcoming this pricing hurdle. If you're able to list your product with Amazon and have them fulfill it as well automatically, that shipping cost goes away. You could even link your Amazon listing to your website. So let's say, for instance, you have a product that is being sold both to your local market and to your international market. You could have your, you know, your add to cart, your buy now button on your product page for persons to buy locally. Then you could have an Amazon product button to bring those persons over to Amazon, you know. So that's a consideration that persons can think about if it is that you have the capacity to send your products to Amazon and sell through Amazon. That may help you to overcome that shipping problem, because right away, once you're having your product being fulfilled through Amazon, that shipping cost is reduced significantly. And based on my vantage point right now, that's the only solution to that customer's problem. And I can envision that may very well be right now today the only solution that may be available to a lot of us who want to sell our products to that market. I know Amazon has been eyeing the Caribbean and doing a lot of work in terms of trying to get persons to send their products over to them in bulk, especially for the Jamaican market. I know you're able to do it. I know the Jamaican Manufacturers and Exporters Association has been doing a series of training to persons in Jamaica on how they can access this resource. This is something that I would encourage persons to consider if you are eyeing the North American market, because this shipping issue is not going to go away today.
I hear you, Leighton. And you guys know my feelings when it comes to Amazon and how predatory they are. I know they may offer the solutions now, but seeing what their practices have been like when it comes to small businesses, micro businesses, is not something that again, I just see it as we need to solve the problems beyond Amazon, just as Roxanne is suggesting. So Amazon might be an immediate solution, but I think it's a very short-sighted solution when you look at the overall practices of that company and how predatory they have been. All right. That's just my 2 cents on it. That is my opinion of working. I mean, there are other options. There are other companies that doesn't say exactly the same thing, right? Amazon Yes, they have their own logistics, but they typically employ other third-party logistics services. Just as I'm suggesting, we can, but when we decide that we're going to work together, they're third-party logistics companies that could provide the same service without the predatory practices. That's there. That's a possibility. Walmart does exactly the same thing as Amazon in that space. Right? You can actually send your products over to Walmart as well and have them handle your logistics. But then also that comes with a cost, right? If you're sending your products in bulk to Amazon and their warehousing, know that when they tell you now that your percentage, the percentage of the commission they take on sales is 15%. Once you're doing ship from Amazon, that percentage of commission could increase to up to 50%. Right? It's significant. And those are things that you have to weigh. Any other comments, any other thoughts? Anyone else? Okay, so it seems like we have no other comments, no other thoughts. Everybody's getting ready for the Easter. We got, oh, April. Troy, April, let's go first. Troy, we jump in after.
Hi, yeah. I was also thinking, what about Caribbean Airlines with Jetpack? I know that they do exporting, but their site doesn't have much information on the export aspect. But the other day I went to have to collect a package that I imported, but they also have the export section where you can, utilize them for that. So maybe they can be another alternative that we can look at.
Yeah, definitely. It's one of the agencies that one of the couriers that I'm working with is actually getting into an arrangement with them now. So, so it would be where they take up all the space. They're planning to buy all the space from Caribbean Airlines freight aspects, and then redistribute that space to small businesses at a fee. Absolutely.
Okay, great.
Joy, go ahead. Joy, you still there?
Yeah, sorry about that. Thank you. Just who are some of these third-party people that Amazon uses, like an example of some of them, and how they would help us without the predatory aspect of things.
Okay, so the thing is, their focus is not, so just as Leighton was suggesting, right? So you would have products tied on your website, but your website is tied to, your website would have to be integrated with Amazon Business. So now it comes in via your website or via Amazon. Amazon has the product in their warehouses and they will ship them out. But a lot of these warehouses, or many of these warehouses, are not actual Amazon warehouses. They're third-party warehouses. Amazon just controls the entire system. Now, the having a third-party logistics warehouse that is not tied to Amazon with your business, it's just that your business, they're just focused. Their main focus is not monitoring your business. They're not collecting data on your business per se. It's your website. Your website is tied to their inventory management system and their logistics systems. When order comes in your website, it goes over to them, they ship it out, and that aspect of things. You pay them a fee. Based on the examples that I showed you, negotiate those fees and they take care of everything. You just ship stuff over and they move it. That answers the question, Troy? Nope. Anything else? Anyone else? As Philip was suggesting, I figured a lot of people are ready to start the Easter weekend. It's a long weekend. So, looking forward to see you guys next week again. Enjoy. Have a safe weekend. Thanks for being here. Philip, over to you.
Yeah, thank you, Gilbert. So yes, final thoughts. If you're still willing to fill out that form to indicate your preferences for marketplace, please do so. You have a long weekend. If you have to catch up on your work and all of that stuff, yeah, take some time to do it. Well, for those of you who are into this, happy Easter to you, and the rest of you have a great weekend, and I'll see you next week. Take good care of yourselves and your families. Bye.